say something from up there, but you might have to hold them like that. When do we start? We're ready. Somebody press go. And I'm speaking to you, is that right? Good evening, everybody. I'm Michael Tilson Thomas. I want to welcome you to this masterclass, which is part of the Viola Visions Festival happening in here at the New World Symphony in New World Center in Miami, Florida. We've had several days now of fantastic performances of all kinds of wonderful new pieces and old pieces from Bach to Nico Muhly and George Benjamin, and we have more happening in the next days. Also, we have had some amazing master classes and one-on-ones, and this is the beginning of our online project tonight, one of the many sort of online conferences that New World Symphony has done around different instruments in these last years. We have two really great artists with us, sort of both iconic figures of the music world and viola world, Tabea Zimmerman and Kim Kashkashian, who are with us to offer some advice to some of the young musicians who we have gathered through a process of looking at in numbers of posts which were sent by them to be appreciated and reviewed by members of the New World Symphony and fellows, former fellows, alumni fellows of the New World Symphony to get this group together, as well as some of the current fellows of the New World Symphony. So to guide us through this whole evening will be a alum fellow of the New World Symphony who has been a community-embedded musician, very amazing progressive project of bringing musicians and the community together in the Houston Symphony, and is now a member of the Nashville Symphony. Gave amazing performances here of classical and also some avant-garde performance cage pieces. He's had a very tremendous history, and I'm so happy that he's our guide for this evening, and that is Tony Parse.
Welcome, everyone. It is a pleasure to be here this week. It has been nothing short of crazy inspirational and incredible. I think everyone in the room would agree with me in that. And also incredible is just to be introduced by the musician who has had the most impact on my career in my life, which is MTT. I also have the great pleasure of introducing two of the perhaps most influential violists in the universe, being Tabea Zimmerman and Kim Kashkashian, who are going to be helping out with today's class today. Super excited for what's going to happen. We have three young violists who were selected through a national competition, as well as three New World Fellows. We're going to have Teresa Mechias, Mikuel Roulette, and Alec Luna, who are going to be playing first. Following that will be the New World Fellows Stephanie Block, Yan Chi, and Jessica Pasternac. We would like to welcome anybody who's watching online to type in any comments you'd like to into the Facebook feed. I will have a feed here with myself, so I'll be able to ask those comments as the evening progresses. Let's hear some viola music, yeah? Great. It's my pleasure to introduce our first player today. Teresa is a senior high school student at the Mozarteum in Caracas in Venezuela, and she's joining us here tonight. Please welcome Teresa. Teresa, what are you going to be playing for us?
The prelude of the first Bach suite.
Great.
Cello suite.
We're going to get you social media while you're here.
What?
Oh yeah, what's stopping?
Oh, okay.
Kim, would you like to get us started?
Certainly. I'm going to have a very short conversation with Tabea about dividing up areas. I could talk about articulation, shape of slurs. I could also talk about the fact that Bach should not be so democratic in its note values.
Just go ahead, Kim.
Go ahead.
Please, Isaiah.
Okay. If you take a look at the manuscript that we have, the only one we have, which is Anna Magdalena, you will notice that a lot of the slurs are not as repeated as
That's true.
you're playing. And of course, there could be two schools of thought about that. You could think maybe she was sloppy. Maybe she didn't mean it. Maybe she meant them all to be the same. But the school of thought that I'm interested in is the one that Honor Bilsma is the proponent of, which is she meant it. And therefore, our slurs should be more like having a independent and improvised dialogue. The language has to change, the words have to change. So if you say, "What a great morning it is, here I am," the next repeated bar should not be the same kind of syllable structure. It should be something like, "And I'm going to go to the park." So that we have differences of text and language built in through the use of different slurs.
Yeah.
Okay? So that's just a point of view, one that I believe in fairly strongly. Also, because the harmonic rhythm is very slow.
Yeah, that's true.
Therefore, you need to be changing it up in some other way. Okay? One more related subject, and then I'm going to leave it to Tabea. When you do a Bach stroke, essentially every stroke, whether it be a single note, a détaché, or a group of notes in a slur, should have the shape of a U shape or a smile. So you're going in and out of the depth of the string and getting air on both ends. So I'm just going to show you
That would be
what
great.
that feels like.
Yeah.
Put up your viola, okay?
Okay.
And I'm going to take your bow, and I'm going to show you, I hope, this is a little awkward, but so you can feel. So that air on the end, you're going to do that without lifting the bow out of the string. But you can feel that it's going from 0 pounds to 1 to 2 to 3 to 2 to 1 to 0. And each set of notes, or a single note, you want to be doing essentially that stroke with your bow.
Okay, yeah.
A good way to learn to feel it is to hold your hand here,
Okay.
okay? I'm going to sit down now. Exactly. Okay, try an up bow, be courageous. Okay, good. That's perfect. That is the basic language and grammar that we need to play Bach. Okay? It's a universal.
What about the...
All notes. Single notes, slurred notes.
Yes.
Okay. If you're going... I don't think we need the mic for this. Just take a look. It's not... Can you see the difference?
Yeah.
And hear it?
Yeah. Do I need to keep my hand here?
No, you don't need to. It's a really good tool, but you don't have to.
Okay.
Good. doing, especially in the first bars, before you got a little too horizontal and not enough vertical action, gave you a lot of beautiful resonance and depth in each note, which I love. I think that's beautiful that way. Yeah, okay.
Hi, Teresa. I liked your performance very much. I think you took a nice timing and calm in your music. I think that was very nice. I agree with Kim about the resonance of the bow stroke, so I'll go to another element in your playing. I think you could look for a better dynamic kind of position. I feel that you hold the viola kind of tense, and I think it would be nice if the music could go through your whole body and that you can feel the pulse of the music that you play while you interact with the instrument and the bow.
Yeah.
So that it's not one position for the instrument, fix it and then play on it, but find a dynamic balance between left and right. Let's just try the 4 beats, maybe on an open string for now. Not to get too tense physically. I think that's something we're always concerned of, all of us, especially on the viola. How to find the energy for what we do in playing and not getting tired, but reusing that energy actually for what we play. Try a few open strings of the G and D, they fit harmonically. So, essentially, your bow, will make the string resonate, and the left hand reacts to that, or gives the bow the kind of plate or tray that you carry. And since each note, each string is in a different part of the phrase, I think what we want to look for is different sounds, moving phrasing and not making them the same. So try not to feel one musical, physical tension, but waves, like the music is written. Yeah, let's play a bit.
Okay.
You play the Bach and I'll do some.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So, you know what I want to say is that, first of all, Teresa, thank you for being here. And thank you for your really beautiful performance and your beautiful approach to music, which is so clear that you really have. And, you know, in listening to your performance, the thing that was so striking to me was some of the quiet playing that you did, the really sensitive, aware things where you brought us into the quiet part of the music. And I think what both of these wonderful artists are suggesting to you, that you can have that same communicative power and reaching the audience in a bigger way, not just like, oh, look how beautiful and sensitive I am here, but you know, just here I am, Teresa, I'm here, and I'm playing for you. And that's kind of what's I think you're both encouraging.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. All right, next up we have Mikuel Roulette. Mikuel is a first-year student at the Juilliard School. He's studying with Heidi Kasselman and Sinyun Wang. Mikuel will be accompanied by Thomas Steigerwald. Mikuel?
Very nice playing. I like your ideas. I can hear many beautiful ideas. I think we can work a little bit on getting more dynamic and more range of different sounds, colors, emotions, and playing techniques. I think what we need to do, if we have so many different things to say in a short time, like one exposition, and you have a cantabile start, then you have more leggero parts coming up. Let's try to match the technique according to the music you play. I liked very much your beginning with the long bow. I think that's quite daring. Let's try to find a little bit better contact to the strings so that it's soft but with a cantabile and sonore sound quality.
Okay.
Right now I heard soft but very careful. Let's hear the long bow.
It's actually this.
Yeah. So maybe you can keep the contact in the middle of the bow, grow into the sound.
Okay.
So the cantabile parts with a good contact to the string, and the shorter parts, the leggero parts, I think we can have more light playing technique where also your smaller parts, the fingers, could get involved a bit more. Just easy rule, whole bow, whole arm, half bow, half arm, smaller notes with the fingers, yeah?
Yes.
Get different parts involved with what you need. Yeah, let's do the beginning again. Let's just have one more look at this first thema. I think the important thought for the string player is that the phrasing is always much longer than the length of the bow. So the bow change should not stop the music, but continue the phrase and go into the next kind of peak of your phrase. Think from the beginning, where do you want to land first time, or when do you breathe first time?
Probably at the Neapolitan. Here.
Well, if I would ask you to sing this, you would be on the floor.
Yeah, that's
long
true.
Before
Never
that, we can try. But
The first rest here.
yeah, so that's just a kind of not end of the phrase. I agree with you, but it would be the first time you would need to take some. So let's try from here till here without stopping the bow speed or really going into the next bow. Play a little bit faster for now to feel more the phrase than each bow.
Okay.
Let me just demonstrate once. It's beautiful. Actually, you play it very beautiful. I just want to get a little bit different sound variety to the first phrase. When you play the first bow, think the second and the third one, and also take it from the information we have in the music. Like, we start with that small cell from A to C and back to A, and then each bar has more tension with a larger interval. Yeah. So don't sit yet until you reach the largest interval of that phrase, which is all the way here. Yeah? But maybe Kim wants to say something different now. I don't know, we have so little time for each one. We'll give you some.
Well, I think that first phrase is everybody's favorite phrase. And of course, we all have our own way of defining what might or could happen there. And I commend you for taking that bow, long bow, but I think it tells us something about the balance of the phrase. And what I'd like to speak in general about is phrase balance and how big your phrases can be. So if you were to sing, as Tabea imagined you singing, that first long bow, it would have a certain amount of diaphragmatic tension, right? And he tells us now to be free in our sound. The bow is a third the size of that first unit. So he's saying tension, release inside of the first half of the phrase, right? Yeah. So it's a different way of thinking of the balance. And then to continue, those intervals, the melodic tension there, should be shown too. And then the big leap. So how we define using the bow, I don't think I'm even, So if you want to think about tension and release as the indicator here, then you need to go closer to the bridge, yeah, to provide, let's call it resistance, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's like holding on. It's going. Now it's going. May I?
Yes,
You?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I should always ask. It's much more free. So you've got a built-in contrast of texture in your own sound that supports what you're doing. So we're talking about doing the same thing, just a different way of describing it. But I would like to also talk to you, because I know you'll explore this, and you don't even need to try it right now.
Yeah.
Where did you point as the end of the phrase?
I pointed to 18, but I know it should continue past that. I have always struggled with trying to figure out where the small phrases are and what's the big overlying phrase, and how I should make the difference between each of them, because it could just sound like a bunch of different phrases.
It's an enormous question. The question you're asking is how to make small grammatic gesture, which we need, and as well a big arc. Mm-hmm. And that big arc, I feel, is a little bit missing. I did not get what I would like to get, which is that this is all one idea, and then we say, okay, we're going to try something else.
Well, hence the question.
And where does that, yes, exactly. And where does that go?
Probably to the long A at the end.
Yes, that's the end of the second phrase. And then?
Continuing on, I don't know.
Okay. Well, I think that the question of the arc size that we're talking about is maybe manageable for you right now. It's, not an extraordinarily big arc. Eventually, I'd like to see you get all the way to the end of the exposition, drawing one big arc in your mind on the wall here. Mm-hmm. But let's start with the little ones, okay? So you're going to end up... We have now a new idea. This is not a new idea, it's just a variety. Mm-hmm. And you must continue. release. I would prefer to think of all of this as one balanced phrase. A cantabile phrase balanced with something that's a little more, almost in its sad way, flirtatious, right?
Yeah.
Now we're ready for something new.
Yeah.
So if you were to take this passage and continue through, very important, go through that, don't stop. This is not a new idea, it's a continuation.
Okay.
Yeah? Harmonically. We're stuck. We're trying. That's your next phrase. So why don't you try that? You worked so hard on the first one already, so how about we work a little, do we have time to work on the second one? Okay. How about you take it from here?
Okay.
So we are... Keep your attention. And keep going. Anything could happen now, right? So, and Tabea mentioned something else that I'd like to also talk about, which is when you have little notes, you need to move less.
Yes.
And when you play fast notes, you need to have what I like to call dancing fingers. So that your attitude towards the fingerboard has to shift. You don't need to use bow here. This doesn't help us. It's a... So try that, because it'll give you a textural contrast.
Okay.
Yeah? Dancing fingers.
One before that.
I think we can do better. I'm going to do something that my teacher always did to me. Like that. Dancing fingers. Not, but not clear? Do this. Are you lefty or righty?
I'm a righty.
Then do it with your right hand. You have something to add?
Yes,
Yes,
I
good.
want to make it more
Please.
complicated for you to get double information. Can you do the left hand, what Kim told you, and can you do faster right hand at the same time? So that you add... No, like to get the speed that you hear from the piano part, because I think you're too slow in the bow when you go da 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 da. I think we need to play whatever you do with the left hand on top of what you hear from the piano, and therefore the bow speed I think should be the same speed that you start the notes. Sorry, I'm out. Just to make it more complicated.
Feel how your fingers bounce up?
Yeah.
The bouncing up thing, that's what you need on a fingerboard to do that. Okay? That's better. Now, I'm not quite sure what you had in mind, but what I had in mind here is a good start and a good release.
You get a lot of input from all sides. I would like to start with the same speed like the piano. I think we need to... So. afraid that. Yes. That's why I
We're
jumped
doing the
in.
same thing, just saying it in another way. Yeah. So you want to put a little bite on the beginning, active, like you're jumping onto the floor. So there's an energy like a bounce. You got to release after you do it. So jump up and down. Boom. That's too gentle. Boom, boom. So you're really releasing. You want to hold it?
Yeah.
Okay. Think about the up, not the down.
Okay.
There you go. So do that with your bow.
Okay.
Listen to the bass line. Accent a little bit. It says piano, but accent anyway. Because again, you're supporting that line. Can you start? Keep going. Okay, that's good. So again, this is just a variety of what you did, just like this was a variety. Yeah. So it's not a stopping point. It's not a point where you even want your listener to go, oh, no. You want them to go, and there's this too. Yeah. Okay. The one thing that I think also we would both absolutely agree on is that it would be good for you to use a different range of contact point, right? So everything is happening in what I call the neutral place. The neutral place is not a good place to be when you're playing music. You want this, you also want this, and you want to be able to pull your sound. So exploring resistance as a concept, as well as speed and verticals that match your horizontals. So this is a... Okay? I think Tabea needs to say something.
No.
Yeah.
Because I want to see what you explain, but I think the speed of the actually we want both notes to be articulated, not just the first or the second. Let's try to go once much faster around the other strings. Maybe on open strings. Can you go? So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, and the second one. It's too slow. In the bow is not fast enough on that other string. Exactly on the second note. Much less bow on the first note, so let's improvise and then later come back to Schubert. The viola, the difficulty of the viola is to play fast notes short and yet grab the string in that very, very short moment, like a pizzicato, papa, papa. You would have. I think think the shortest answer I have for you is that the note starts before I touch the string.
Okay.
For me, then it's not, but because I'm thinking like throwing a ball.
Mm-hmm.
The ball can't jump when it's on the floor already. First, I have to get it there. So
Yeah.
I'm using the vertical part of the bow quite a lot in anything articulation. Not.
Yeah.
So let's try what we did in our Mare Nox the other day. Let's do the vertical part of the bow. Try to get to the speed of 16th. Yes. And now do one on the C and one on the G string. That element is part of what I do. A small part of it is there. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's try 1 minute to go from vertical that doesn't do any sound into more horizontal and add a little bit of weight. And then you have a nice. Yes? Yes? So
Yeah.
use the jumping part of the bow.
Okay.
I think that control of starting on the string is often too slow for viola.
Yeah.
I would use that millimeter above the string and throw the bow into the string. But that can be quite an experiment for you to do a little bit of the vertical part of the bow and bring it back into the fast notes.
Brother, and Mikuel, I have one thought for you, and maybe you already have done this, but I don't know how many Schubert songs you've listened to. I would suggest to you that you listen to a lot of them, and some of the artists like Fischer-Dieskau and Fritz Wunderlich, and there's a whole
Yeah, I'm
world of
familiar.
people,
Yeah.
tradition of singing this song. So something like the first phrase, Tom, if you'll accompany me. My singing is going to shake the universe now. Okay, here we go. I mean, so, es war einmal ein armes Kind, der hat kein Heim. I mean, whatever it is, it's it's you know, it has an expressive direction to it of some sort. And there are a lot of songs which have a profile very much like this.
Yeah.
I think it would be very interesting for you to listen to the way, because no one does it the same way. That's what's so interesting, because the words are there and people shade the words slightly differently, and that's suggestive for us when we just have notes to look at. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time.
Great story.
Thank you.
All right, next up we are going to have Alec Luna, who will be playing the first movement of the Bartók Viola Concerto. And Alec is currently studying at the Robert McDuffie Center for Strings at Mercer University with Rebecca Albers and Sin-Yun Wang. Please welcome Alec.
And I'll be playing till before rehearsal 80.
Thank you.
Good.
Kim, you want to get started?
Sure. I'm not exactly sure what to do with this when I'm playing. Any suggestions?
Pockets.
I do not have a pocket.
Okay.
That's why I was a little reluctant to.
Ken, you should maybe put it
I guess I can put it here. My apologies, Mr. Yamaha.
Yes.
It's not very safe. Can you unwind it? No? Yeah. Okay, great. So let's go through this phrase by phrase, just in terms of what might be. Okay, a little more of an ideal version. I think that you want to take maybe not an outward step, but a step that has a little weight in it. Oh. And then. And this is its opposite. And this is the heavy one. So you've come full circle there, okay? Now, why would a composer go back and forth and repeat himself? What do you think? It's about tension, right? It's about building stubbornness or tension or trying to get out of a box, yeah? So we need to feel. Intervals getting smaller and smaller. Things are getting more and more tense. And this is your release point. Okay. And then he's back in his box. I go, oh, where's he going? Something has to be very dramatic. Here's your release. And maybe, had we had an F string, bah, bah, okay, one should imagine it continuing on like that, okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. So now your first phrase is going to relate to your second. How? Dramatically. What is, character-wise, what is the difference between this and this?
I guess at least for me, I feel like it's a little bit more introspective the second time it comes around.
Less dramatic.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. I will bring up something that was taught to me by the Hungarian school, Sándor Vég, etc. And it's called, what he called it was bow reflections. But I don't know if that's a direct translation of a Hungarian word. What we're talking about is double impulsing in the bow, inside of a legato, something that I would call bow vibrato. So this is like this. It's one unit. This, however, needs bow reflections.
Yeah.
You see it?
Yeah.
Okay, you want to try that for me?
Yeah. Right from there.
Yep.
So like.
Yeah, you did a good one. It's like bouncing the bow but keeping the hair moving. Legato. Yeah. Good. Yeah. And this is not a stopping point. You're going, okay?
Yeah.
So in your next phrase, we have the same issue of one step, and then bow reflection. Okay, try that. Yeah, good, very good. So now we're going to fast forward a little bit because of time constraints. I would think that your first statement, your second statement, is, you called it warmer. Yeah, and I would call this a little more extrovert, and the final one even more so, even more extrovert. So you would want to step out to the audience. Now, if you were to get a chance to study the manuscript pages, you would know that this tie doesn't exist. So you want to play da-da-dum-pa. Okay, not da-da-dum. Okay,
Yeah.
very important. And then also important, and I don't expect you to try this right now, but so just like what comes later,
Yeah.
it's the same kind of jump. So you might want to modify those things.
Yeah.
So can you go up for me? And so it's a nice yatatampa. Yeah, except you forgot to stamp your foot. Yeah, okay, but that's the idea.
Yeah.
And maybe you can work in. And this is important, that he takes us out of key. So that's a bigger stretch, sound-wise. And then you've got the. And you need to lean into a slur. Especially because of this. And all those slurs need leaning into. Do you want to take over?
I have to admit that for me the Bartok is a very tricky one for a short masterclass like this, because you mentioned the manuscript, and I think we have so little information in this. It's really difficult for me. Yes, I know.
Okay.
So
Well, we have-
maybe I can just say something more general to the way you play. I think you can or should find a way now to explore the sounds of the piece much more. There is a whole nother world of width in dynamic and expression, and I think your playing was a little bit mezzo something, but that it wasn't clear. Try to be much clearer, and into that clarity comes also intonation from my side. I think you need to hear your sound in connection to what the orchestra, or in this case the piano, is doing, and find each one really in the middle of the chord. There was a lot that was kind of besides. So let's play one more time the beginning, please.
May I
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, something about this concerto, of course, there are these, I'm just thinking this, within a very short time period, less than 50 years, you have Sibelius Violin Concerto, both Prokofiev Violin Concerti, and the Bartok Concerto, which are in a way all about this lyrical, kind of mournful, mysterious evocation of the, which, even though some of them have accompaniment, some of them don't, but it's the same idea that the soloist is sort of there and bringing you into a space, a very personal, very, very expressive space, and it's all quiet, and meant to sound in some ways like an improvisation. So this is the real challenge in terms of the expressive part of it, to be able to do that without disturbing things also. It has to be a flow.
So from the beginning.
Thank you so much, Alec.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, we're moving on to the New World Fellows. First up is going to be Stephanie Block. She's going to be playing Symphonia Concertante, and she'll be playing along with Catherine Kobelaris. Please welcome Stephanie.
start? Yes. I think this piece is so interesting in the form. When the two solo instruments come in, this is somehow not the beginning of the thema. And I thought it was interesting how you started just a few bars before their entrance, but actually they come in at the end of the tutti. So how can we find that and reflect that in our sounds? I think it would be nice if you would complete the big tutti that we now can only imagine since we didn't hear it, but that the solo is not, it's not a beginning. And then later, the way you played now, I think towards the very end, we had a good blend of sound, but it took a little bit of time. And I would like you to think more operatic, maybe. You can find for each thema a different character, and then play that character in two perspectives, but kind of one character divided into two elements, rather than two people showing what they can do with their instrument. Let's get the instruments a little bit out of the way and look more at the characters. That's what I want to say.
Like in a duet, così fan
Yes.
tutte, whatever like that. The same phrases are sung by the different voices, but there's a different spin that
Yes.
is put on them, which is also designed to demonstrate, especially in the big operatic world, what someone say, and this is my particular strength and character. Oh yes, well, this is my strength and character, and this is what I'm going to do with it.
Yeah, that's what I would like to bring out a bit more. So maybe you can play a few more bars before they come in, and you can find your sound really completing the tutti before you then take over in the more solo parts.
Okay, make an experiment. Do everything that Tabea was asking for in your minds, but open your mouths as you play the long note. So as if you were really singing and opening the vowel sound. That's not happening, but it will if you actually are doing it. Okay, it's going to look silly. Go ahead and be silly.
Let's take the orchestra impulse as the beginning of the phrase, and we react to it as solos. It's not ba 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 ba, but ba 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 la ba ba ba. Let's find a sound and a timing where you come into the sound of the bigger orchestra. From there.
Sorry. Yes, but it also has to conflict. This guy is going boom, 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 and you're saying, "Oh, but help me!" It's a different character, right? Or ha 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 ha. I would suggest you try that. Ha 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 ha. A little bit of a belly laugh.
Maybe you can bring out more of the different lines, like not playing the same dynamic at the same, but you a bit more when you go kind of weaving them a bit more. Let's do second forte entrance and stuff comes in. Something I'd like you to try, both of you, to get on to the long notes more, what Kim called opening of the vowel, change the sound in the middle. I think it's too flat in the expression. And make a longer phrase with more little hills on the way. Let's hear the violin again. To make one more thought from the score. I think we can take a lot more information from the orchestra. What's the rhythmical context in which you play? Like when you come in, it's very calm, but then later at the second part of the phrase, when you play and then suddenly we have it's a completely different part of the character. So it's within the same theme, but it's developing differently. And I think we should go from that information. Not because we get bored with one sound, but because there's different context. When the orchestra invites you onto the long halves, legato, or then suddenly jumping off with the eighth notes. I would like to hear that in your playing. Try once an up bow for that phrase. I think it's... Excuse me, that was out of tune. Tomorrow.
We could talk in yet another way about contrast, right? Within a phrase. So if you're playing this figure, it's actually the same as right? It's the same ha 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 feeling, right? So you want to have in this phrase And then a legato, a cantabile. And a ha, 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 ta. Okay? So you're doing two things. You're alternating, right? Texture and character. Okay, try that.
You want to start at hers or mine?
Do you want to try it?
Sure.
Okay. Okay, so think ha, ha, ha. Do this for me. The thing you're never supposed to do. That, right? Okay? Good. Now do it in different directions. Now change notes. Yeah, there you go. Good. It's good. It's very good. But I would probably not attempt to do that here. But here. The bounce point. And then. Okay? So again, you're using the bow two different ways. The same thing goes for this. A slur. And for grouping in your line, it's a little square. If you think. Then you've broken the square, which is a good thing. Yeah?
Okay.
Okay. Actually, I'm not sure if that's an original bowing, but if you're going to do that, then you should break it that way. Yeah? But I still believe that the grouping should be that way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Stephanie, I just want to point out that you were saying, when I listen to Kim demonstrate or Tabea, they're very free to a little bit stretch certain notes. The notes are not exactly equal. And when you play you're comfortable on doing that little tenuto on the top note. But that's not the only place that it could happen in terms of variety in the phrasing happening.
Maybe think about hill with many trees. It's a one big picture. When you come closer, you see many details, all of the same sort, and yet each one is a little different. Maybe each note could have a different amount of bow, not the same. Let's not make the sound the same. I think the ideal of a modern Steinway piano, where everything is absolutely even, is not really the spirit of Mozart's music. Let's try to get more different sounds out.
Before we start playing again, I think that this phrase is also, you've got to see all the trees. Param, param, tayam pam pa. Okay? And also what he said, stretch. Param, param, tayam pam pa. It's fine to do that. And I'm going to point out something we're not playing as Mozart intended with tuned up strings. But if we were, this would not be a slide. It would be an open string. So I'm thinking it might be sensible to try instead of, you don't have to try that today, but just something to think about, okay? I'm gonna sit down now. Yeah, thank you.
Sure, of course.
Wish I had the time.
I think this phrase is a good example of where Mozart always is different from the norm in other classical styles. Like the phrases are all 3 bars here, but let's play that 3rd bar connected, not like a new start, because then you expect a 4th one. So. I think it's already on the downward part of the arc of that phrase. And then the same phrase again an octave higher. When you played that stronger character, padam, tadim, padam, let's hear what is the character and what is the instrument. How does the instrument bring that one out? I think we have to be sometimes very careful with our string changes. When the upper string, mainly on the violin, but also a little bit on the viola, has a very different sound. Let's try it in a different key with open strings. Something simple, not doing the original notes, more on one string, each of you. Yeah, Steph, go ahead. Yeah, and maybe land a bit more. Yes, I think this is a very good sound now. You got into the string, let it resonate more. Now let's do that in another key with the string changes and less resonant notes. Please play the original cue. So, yeah, in working, I would always take something out of context, look for an easier version to do it until I find the sound that I imagine, and then put it back in whatever difficulties. Take things down an octave, play them in another key, play them with different slurs. Find an easy to do version in order to play first the character and then bring it back into more difficult context. I think if we struggle from the beginning with all those difficulties that we have to juggle here, we will not come to the character. Yeah? Now you had a very nice example on that easier key. You have that in mind, and now try again in the. Good. Very good. Very good. Very good. You want to try as well? Also on one string first, make it easy. Yes, but let's not change the rhythm though. Because it's a very short upbeat. Careful with the vibrato that it's not taking the note out of focus. Not too much, please. Careful, careful. think the vibrato is too much, out of style, kind of. Use the natural resonance of the string for now. Okay, now try to bring it back in your original context. And whatever needs the shifting, I agree with Kim, we should not hear a slide. Not on the violin and not on the viola in this part. So practice first with an open fifth and then bring it up and try to hide that audible shifting. Where are we time-wise? How do we proceed? We're fine? Good.
I want to say what these wonderful ladies are saying. It's kind of a situation that a lot of musicians, we all deal with 18th century music, because the general aesthetic of so much of it presents itself as being so much more decorative and involved with concepts of perfection than music in centuries before or afterwards. So it's interesting to speculate that Mozart's patron, Archbishop Colloredo, who was such a very difficult, and persnickety is the word. You know that word. Anyway, it should be, must be this and not that. And the whole thing. So Mozart had to work within these tremendous restrictions and then find these incredibly elegant ways of doing these things. His style, in some way, was caused by these limitations. Haydn had a different patron, much more adventurous, and so he used different things. But I think the challenge is when you're trying to find a way to play this. I was thought about that. I felt like that if I were playing a piece by Mozart or whatever, that it's like I had to hold up this perfect, like a fish or something like that. And then I had to find out that Mozart really was saying, here's this beautiful object. Isn't it beautiful? But look, you see, here and there, I'm actually going around this perfect model. And actually, I'm doing very, very creative things if you can follow my thought. And to be able to have the courage to find those things, hear those things, do those things, when there's a whole aesthetic that we grow up with of it, exactly that. It needs to be so perfect. So it has to be perfect and something else too, right? So that's the challenge.
Depth, root, and heavenly exist at the same time. And it's in all his operas. And it's in this piece too. Mostly within one phrase. You have to see both things. The wheel is turning complete cycle inside of every phrase, and between phrases, and between movements. Yeah.
Thank you, Stephanie and Catherine. All right, we are skipping ahead to, now we have Yuan Chi. She's going to be playing for us the Brahms. Yes, we're going to take a 2-minute break.
Thank you.
We'll be back in 2 minutes. All right, we're going to get started again. Thank you all so much. Please welcome Yuan Chi playing the Brahms F minor sonata.
to jump right in. Beautiful. I think you're a wonderful player. Very nice. I would like to talk about a few things that I would take from the score. I think there's a lot of information that we can do in a much more chamber music where you could also be closer to your colleague, and then we could maybe react it without much sign language, but just seeing how the motifs go through the voices. I think we can get a lot more information here. When you start, or when you heard Thomas start, when do you think about your first note?
A measure before.
Because you were
I
a
think
long time before you started, you were kind of ready but kind of frozen in the movement. And I would like to try that you listen to the first beginning of the sonata in the piano and then breathe and start in one. Not long preparation. It was kind of not reacting to what he did, because you were already thinking too early about what you do. That was one thing in the beginning. In general, I think we should see Brahms as a pianist himself in piano writing and find a way how the viola can play stronger in forte without working much harder, but to get a better balance. I would not want to ask you to play less, but I would want to ask you to play more. And the way to do that, I think, is in the beginning of the bows. If you think of the note starting like with a key in the piano technique, rather than on the string. Go ba, ba, much more speaking, faster beginnings of the bows. That's one thing. Then I have another thought that I want to share with you, and that is the use of vibrato. I think we have to be very careful that the vibrato is not an element that takes over or covers some otherwise important information. Like, for example, when you have ta di di di, when you have the slow version of the tema starting on one, I don't think that the viola should have this glissando. That, to me, that takes way too much place. Like, you are the solo part. But this information for me is more important. I think we go up an octave, but not in a melodic way. Sorry. Try to hear from the first beat, like and then fa. I want to react more to what I hear then, rather than start something so melodic between 1 and 2. But maybe that's too small a detail. Yeah. The vibrato as a small element of how we make the sound vivid or resonant, but not as something that is constantly there. Try a little bit from the beginning. Again, I was talking too much. Why do you start with an up bow? What could be a reason for an...
Oh, it's just, I was thinking this might be this beginning of the long phrase. So
It feels a little like you make a compromise for something that's coming later, but try one time now in down bow. We can always do it the other way, but the impulse of starting the phrase, I still feel there's something weird about waiting before you actually start.
Is it terrible of me to say?
Sure.
Allegro appassionato, right?
Yes?
Is what he asks for. I think already, Tom, you know, when he does these things in 3 octaves like this in the piano music, you think of that like in the ballads or even in the rhapsodies some places. This, you can go across bar lines more, maybe. Try that once more. Try that once more. And try it really go to the, what is it, 1, 2, 3, 4th bar. You're going, why?
I have a few more ideas. I think we can do more precise expression on the moment, not just a large phrase. I feel you're very concerned about the long phrase. And that is a good thing, but not instead of detail. I think we have to build it from detail, then into smaller parts, then into larger parts. For example, when you start your forte, I think that is really a strong action on the first beat. I heard you play like more like ba-ba. For me, it starts on 1. It's yum, ba-bam, and we play second bar of the phrase, I think. Yum, ba-bam. Yeah. And again, 1, 2. I wouldn't think this as a beginning of a phrase, or at least a conflict where you say 1 and then you say 1. But it's not just the beginning of the viola or the clarinet. Let's be a little bit more. I think the appassionato can be inside. It can be in the tempo, but it can also be more this kind of fighting inwards. Yeah? Let's try this part. As beginning of your phrase. So 1 da-dam. Yeah. That's good here from the forte. Please always look also to the piano part. I think you stay here so loud because it doesn't say diminuendo in the viola part, but we need to know that there is a fortepiano underneath. I think we have to react to it anyways. Something changes in the phrase. I heard you continue in the same forte because it's not marked diminuendo, but please see this is a very, very big dramatic change within the phrase. Can we do the second forte? demonstrate once what I mean with the beginnings of the notes. Can you play your forte there? I think it's a ba. You first need to really, yes, not press into the viola. That will not be louder. But we even have a sforzato in the piano part. Yeah, you need to know that. Okay. So that's a different beginning of the note. A much faster bow. Let's try that right here. Yes, that one was better. Let's do the fan. Let's try a few times alone. Yeah. Let's play a little bit in the key. To change the bow speed on each bow many times. If I could say in 1 minute, my concept of bow use would be that each note has 3 parts at least. A beginning, a middle, and an end. So according to the length of the note, we have to vary that quite quickly. And if we don't vary, then the sound is a bit flat.
To continue discussing the same thing, how can we think of those beginnings, middles, and ends? And how does it relate to something you might actually visually see? So we talked in Mozart about this shape, and in Bach. And we are accustomed to this shape, right? But there are 2 more ways of shaping beginning, middle, and end. One is if you are going to start the note on a diagonal and take it out of the note on the diagonal, right? That is what you're trying to do when Tabea asks you for energy. I think it's much more about preparing vertically. And the way I describe this is the bow goes down into the string. It comes out of the string, and then it moves horizontally. It's like you said, it's a pizzicato. And the release is the sound. But what we do when we pizzicato, we grab, we let go, and the sound comes. We're not used to doing that with the bow, but we can. So it looks like this. Here, put up your viola, honey. Not your bow, I'm going to use mine. Okay? Prepare, release, move. Prepare, release, move. Yeah? So you get attack and energy without ugliness, right? There's no noise in it. So you see that the coordination, the timing, is down, up, move. Rather than what we're used to.
I would like to ask a question to that. How do you get that in the speed of that context in the phrase in the Brahms that we just had? How can you do that on... How would you do it?
Pretty easily, actually.
But in the complete phrase, like when you hear Ti-da-da-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum-ba-dum-bum. How would you explain it in the speed of the...
How fast can a ball be bounced? Very fast, right? It's like a fast dribble of a ball, dribble this way, or rebound that way. So it's like doing that out of the string, in and out of the string, can be quite fast, if that's what you're asking. The speed of it, you
just
said?
how do we get that into the context of the musical phrase? Because what you showed was a slower motion.
I was demonstrating so she could see.
Yes.
Yes. But that could be, you can do this as fast as you want. You can do it as fast as you want. But you first have to practice it slowly, I think. This coordination has to be, you relearn the coordination. It's something to practice. Yeah.
Try slow and then try to get it faster. Let's see. In
Doesn't
2
happen in
minutes.
one day. Yeah, so you relax into the string, feel your weight, release it like bouncing out, and then play. Yeah. Yeah, and now try it on an up bow. That's not as easy. No, you're fine. Exactly. It gives great clarity. It's possible to learn to do it quickly. Why not? Anything we can do slowly, we can learn to do quickly. Yeah. I think it's only another way of describing what you described, which is the drop as energy.
I'm not sure. I think we're taking it from a different end, and that's interesting. But
Yeah.
it's also difficult to get it together now.
I think part of the appassionato character is to listen to what the piano's doing. Yeah, listen to those harmonies. So can you play one more? Just play slowly with her and hold on the second beat.
We don't have, I don't believe in that at all. I think we have to catch it one, get there.
No, listen to the second beat. We're slow now. So there's a clue in there for us. The clue is, what does the second beat sound like? I'm going to start up because you did, okay? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. You hear it?
Yeah.
Carrying the phrase in an appassionato fashion means activating and having a transfer point in the second beat, the one that you don't articulate, but that you should color. Yeah. Okay, I interfered. Maybe we should move on to another phrase. Yeah.
I know, right?
Yeah. I wanted to say one thing about the marcato phrase is that it comes out of the first beat. Ta-ya-dum, ba-bum, ya-da-dum. And the same when it's elongated. Ta-da-dum, ba-bum. And right now, there's a lengthening. Ta-da-dum, ba-bum, because you have a lot of notes. But you should actually be carrying through that phrase shape as well, okay? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
When you're talking about this articulation,
Yeah.
I think it's pretty different with spiccato, right? So how should I practice spiccato?
Spiccato.
Yeah.
There are two, again, if you think about the vectors of the bow and what the bow is doing, there's this brushstroke spiccato in which the horizontal motion is starting and the vertical motion happens when you touch the string and you come in and out of the string. That's your brushstroke, right? And the other form, I see it this way, if you really break it down, you're doing something, again, that Sándor Vég taught me. If you can do that, you can balance the stick. Just try it. It's a perpetual motion. you can practice this and be on the phone or watch TV. Just get that perpetual motion feeling by doing nothing in the arm. And that is the basis of the vibrato spiccato that I think is most useful for violists, which is, again, the second step of that is pick up, drop and pick up. But first step is get your perpetual motion going. Yeah. And then drop and pick up. And then do less. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and there you are. So, but it's just divided into two sorts, and it's about that chart, which vector happens first. Horizontal, vertical, and what combination. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Before we leave, it's just one thing about I would like to observe about music that is in 3/4 especially, which is that there's this thing about classical music that many people experience was, oh yes, classical music, the music that gets slower. This is something a lot of people think. And one reason for that is something that's in 3/4, like the Eroica or something like that, is that everyone wants to play the third beat beautifully, but very often it happens that people get there too late. So it's a little bit too late, and we want to have its full value, but it's easier if you're just a little bit more forward in the time, especially a bar that has half note followed by a quarter note.
Yeah. Activate the middle. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to try just a little bit of that? Because when you play with Tom, it should feel like you are leading him. That's something to think about. There's a lot of ideas we're hitting you with at once. Really. Good.
All right, with our last breaths, we have Jessica Pasternac is going to be playing the Stamitz Viola Concerto First Movement. Please welcome Jessica.
I'll start. Do you want the left side or the right side?
What?
The left side or the right side?
You start and I'll
Okay. Okay, I'm going to take the right side. We're going to take this away from Stamets for a minute, okay? That's okay with you, right? And we're going to talk about how to create, maybe there are many ways, but one way that you might work on creating a more resonant singing sound, which will then lead you to having more molding and shaping in your phrases. Okay? So I would like you to try, first of all, putting your viola in a position where you're not gonna, where gravity's gonna help you rather than hinder you. So when you hold your viola down here, the bow wants to travel this way. That is not a good thing, right? Okay, so at least a situation where you're parallel, okay? Now the strings are still moving this way, of course. They're angled that way from the bridge. So we still have to work a little bit to keep our bow from sliding and wanting to do this. So I think a really good way to practice that feeling is to do a continuous diagonal U-shaped pulsation into the bridge. So we are shaping like that constantly into the bridge as we draw a long bow. So it's going to look like this. Okay, I'll do it on yours so you can see actually how much motion there is this way. So you're pulling in on the diagonal as if the bow contact point were right to here, as if there were a rubber band between your hair, not your hair, the bow hair, and the bottom of your back. Okay? Okay, you're doing wonderfully at the vertical part. You're going up and down. I need you to also pull in. So think about angling the bow that way. Yes. Okay, now I'm going to do something horrible to you. Play that again. Not good. See, if that happens, it's not good enough. You're not pulling in enough with your hand. Okay? I'm sorry for that. Okay. Yeah, good girl, good girl. Yes. Okay, now, if you can do that, and you get comfortable with the idea that you're actually pulling from here into here is directional. That does not mean, by the way, tilting the bow. It's not about turning the bow this way, not at all, because you need all your hair most of the time, right? Bow hair. So you can go from this tempo to this tempo. Which becomes what we were talking about in the Bartók concerto of bow vibrato, and a resonance that starts here and doesn't depend entirely on this. Okay, let's try something besides the C string.
Should I do it on the up bow too?
Okay, so something in your hand doesn't like the idea of pulling in yet. Okay? So let's try this. Put your hand on top of mine. Oh, like right here. Mirror me.
Oh.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, now try to make me move to the bridge. Feel that? Okay, that's what you want to do with your bow.
Okay.
Okay? Yes! Yes. And now pulsate with that. That's the direction. Yes, yes. Okay, so this is a basis for any good cantabile, is developing the inner singing resonance of the bow and not playing flat across the string, right? After all, the string is rotating, it's going around, and you asked a good question, should I try up bow? That's going this way. And the bow should do the same thing. And it can become so fast that it's imperceptible except to the ear. Yeah. Okay? So that's something to work on slowly first, and then try to integrate it. Not so easy in this passage, but for example, here. Okay, any long notes or longer sets where you're in one, where you don't want to depend totally on it, especially not in classical, pre-classical music. You don't need this too much. You need the resonance of the bow itself. Okay? Left hand.
The Stamets, but I'll take it from what I heard. I think you're a very good musician, Jessica, and a very good player. I hear that you learned that quite a long time ago. Is that possible? Did you learn that when you were much younger?
When I was in high school.
It's somehow I feel you need to give it a fresh start now that you are a grown up. it sounds like a young Stamets. Get rid of what you did earlier and look at the material. And what I would like to do with you now in a few moments is just look at the D major scales, arpeggi, and syncopations that we have it built from, but not from playing each one like this, but kind of improvising on it. Let's do just doing these big syncopations, but on 2, not in 4. Let's get it a bit far. Okay. Yes, and now please use less vibrato or a faster one. I think the vibrato needs to go with the bow speed. And we hear now, and then this one is too slow. Play a little bit with full chords, not so much vibrato. Do the resonance from the bow. Yes, and if we think in 2, and this is syncopation, yum ba da dum ba da 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 dim ba. Okay, let's do the beginning. Please keep the feeling of 2. I think we don't want to play the 2 like the 1. It's double the value and against the bar. And then you grow. Build your arpeggio, go up a third, and then the third entrance, you continue. Let's hear that third one. And keep the vibrato classical. So that's the same syncopation, except that we don't play it down, down, but it should be the same sound. And now you go. So you can do it in either bow, but first the idea of the sound. Listen to the vibrato, please. I'll show you one exercise that I do with all my classical pieces. I would try to get the left hand a bit faster, and I do this by lifting actually each finger and play another open string in between. That would sound like so there's no time for vibrato. Because the lifting is actually what makes the finger fast. Yeah? And we're going to get too slow. Let's just look at another part with the faster arpeggio. Let's hear this. I'm not interested in the octaves in the end. I want to hear the beginning of the phrase. Let's hear some simple arpeggio. Yes? Yeah. So I pushed you now into a little bit faster tempo. I agree with Kim that we need to practice slowly, but I would add another element, and it is practicing fast fingers in a slow tempo. So take the time to think about what you do, but move the fingers in the speed that you want to get them moving, because we were on the slow side. Yeah. If you keep working slow, you will not get faster. The sound is not vivid enough, I think. So, for example, in groups or something where you take time to think and then play a few fast and listen to them and think what you will do different next time. Or trying this once to lift the fingers even when you don't need to. Let's do this in a slow practicing tempo, but with extra fast action. So, full scale. Yes, so, and keep the finger quite long on the string. So, da, ba, 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 ba. The lifting is it's not symmetrical. It's not the same time in the air that we are on the string. Yes, and only the fingers move, not the head. Do a few on the same note. Yeah, just a finger. Yeah. Yeah. Try to do fast motion here and keep the body calm. Let's do, for example, this note 8 times. Just here's the speed. Faster. Dig it. Relax. Can you speak while you do this?
I think so.
Yes? Yes. So this is a way to take it away, to get the tension out. Reading aloud or singing, counting simple numbers, doing some math exercise, but trying to get the tension out of what you do and do faster things. So I think your Stamets in general could be a bit more vivid and have more speedy elements. That would be my advice to you. Yeah? Let's
I think that's it. Thank you, Jessica. I just wanted to very quickly thank Medici TV for broadcasting tonight, the Viola channel for broadcasting tonight, the Knight Foundation for helping us with producing this, and please help me in thanking again our esteemed panel, Tabea, Michael, and Kim.
And one thing we know is that tonight watching this, there are probably some people who are 8 years old who are aspiring young violists, and there are probably some 80-year-old retired neurosurgeon violists who still enjoy playing string quartets every once in a while, with an incredible variety and diversity of people are watching this, and I know that everybody got a huge amount about musical things, technical things, and also not to mention the incredible example of these two artists who are so much in every way the music itself. So thank you both so much.